Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a legend in the black community, a legend, an activist, a civil rights leader, a warrior, thank you, Mr. Herb Boyd.
It's been very good. Thank you, James Baldwin.
Thank you.
We understand perfectly. Is this coming through? Can you hear me out there? Okay. PAM. Well, you know what PAM stands for me is please allow me to become a member of PAM, you know. No, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. We got two chairmen in the house, you know that, don't you? You got Chairman Rangel is here also, okay. and Catherine, Ms. Cujo, to be very proper about this, my mother's name is Catherine, so it's always wonderful to come behind a Catherine, you know. And of course, Kwame, that name is just so revered in your country's history. For me, and this is a propitious occasion because we are talking about 50 years ago. 50 years ago, in May of 1964, my mentor, Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, was in Ghana. And he met there a whole coterie of African Americans who had taken base in Ghana at that time. We're talking about including the great W.E.B. Du Bois, his wife at that time, Shirley Graham Du Bois, illustrious writers like Leslie Lacey, Julian Mayfield, activists like Vicky Garvin, and Ellis Wyndham. All of them, you know, were residing, to say nothing of Maya Angelou, then Maya Maki, all welcomed Malcolm when he arrived there in Ghana on his tour. This was going to be one of the most, I think, illustrious years of Malcolm's absolutely remarkable career. He traveled to Africa twice in 1964, also to the Middle East at that time, and he kept a very meticulous diary while he was traveling there. And it's been my good fortune to work with one of his daughters, Ilyasa El Shabazz, and to pull together the diary of Malcolm X, which is finally going to get out there. As my colleague at the City College, Professor Georgia Falou, knows very well, that there's been a legal struggle on this publication, but we finally cleared up a lot of litigation now. The daughters, for the most part, are on the same page, and we can come forward with the publication. It should be available in about a couple of weeks. But I would direct you to the chapter and a section in the book in which Malcolm talks about his experiences in Ghana. He met for 45 minutes with President Kwame Nkrumah. And it's never been revealed what the nature of that discussion, actually what went down between these two very important leaders. But it had much to do with Black nationalism, Pan-African thought. And I thought of the whole Pan-Africanism looking at your short film and seeing that name Dankau jump up. And in my studies of African history, and certainly from a Ghanaian perspective, J.B. Dankow stands as probably one of the most important scholars, intellectuals, a whole Pan-African thing that he initiated. We need to study a lot more what J.B. Dankow was talking about many, many years ago. Kind of a predecessor, a forerunner to some of the ideas that Kwame Nkrumah would try to effectuate later on. Of course, when Malcolm was there in 1964, he was right in what you might call toward the end of Kwame Nkrumah's reign there. Of course, he toppled in 1966, so it was a couple of years before. But I think it's important to go back and look at that particular connection. I heard that word mentioned a couple of times by your speakers about the connection between the Ghanaian community in particular and African Americans. We got to do a lot more of that. Certainly in our publication in the Amsterdam News, we do our best to stay on point. But I put their feet to the fire last week and made sure we got a little something there on Pam about this particular moment. And this is your inaugural ceremony, and there's so much to be a part of that. And another book that I would direct your attention to just recently came out, and is reviewed in this week's New York Times by Howard French, who for many, many years was a correspondent. In fact, he had the African Bureau for the New York Times for many years. Howard French, check out the book. It's called China's Second Continent. And it's talking about the impact that China is having on Africa. There's a long chapter in there that talks about, China's relationship to Ghana. But more importantly for us is Africa's connection to African America. We got to do that. We really seriously got to pursue that. And so I want to get out of the way and make room. I think he comes right after me, I hope he does, for my mentor, my chairman, someone who has been steadfast, a man of unimpeachable integrity, one who I have been covering for the last, my goodness, 30 years? Is it that long? And maybe 30 more, right? But let me get out of the way and make room for the Congressman Charles Rangel. Such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.